Hello everyone. In this topic, we'll discuss about Microsoft Purview. So what is Microsoft Purview? Microsoft Purview is a separate service which is used for data governance. So Purview is used for data governance, risk, and compliance solutions. So basically, whenever we have our data, so let's say the organization is very keen to know and understand what kind of data they are dealing with. It can be in the Azure cloud, it can be in other cloud environment like AWS or Google, and also it can be in on-prem. Let me write. Okay, this is on-prem, and also we have data in other software as a service like Office 365 or any other software service, any other software as a service provider. So the data is there in multiple sources, and we don't know exactly what kind of data we are dealing with. So basically, the organization wanted to know and understand what kind of data they have in their infrastructure. So they wanted to classify the data if it is very critical and it is highly critical, medium critical, or low critical. Only if they understand what kind of data they have in their infrastructure, only then they will be able to classify the data. Right? So we have the data scattered across multiple sources in our infrastructure, and we wanted to know and analyze what kind of data we have. For that, what we have to do is we need to do the data discovery. So first, we will discover the data itself. So this discovery of data is basically, it will collect the metadata of the data. So metadata is nothing but the information about the data itself. So this is the first thing what we are going to do. Then we are going to classify the data. We will classify the data whether it is very critical, high critical, medium critical, or low critical. And also if it is sensitive data, then also we are going to classify the data. And we also have end-to-end map of the data. Now, end-to-end map is basically where the data is exactly residing, whether it is in on-prem, whether it is in other cloud service provider, like it is in Azure, or if it is in other service provider, or if it is in on-prem. So we have the map of the data itself. And we have the view of the data. So once we have the view of the data, what we can do is we can actually input this data to other tools like Power BI or Insights. Let me explain with an example why there is so much of importance about classification of data. Let us say we have a particular company or an organization which is actually dealing with tax filing. And this particular company runs a website which is called as tax.com. So this is tax.com website, and in this website we have all the information, very sensitive information about the customer identity, then credit card information, PAN card information, then bank account, phone number, address. So all the sensitive information are there in this particular website. Now, unfortunately, one day, one particular hacker is randomly visiting some of the web pages and he finds your website. He comes to your website, okay, tax.com. This particular website is so vulnerable when the hacker uses this particular tool, hacking tool, and crawls the website, then you will be able to list the directories. So directory 01, directory 02, and all the files inside this particular website. And all these directories or folders contains all the sensitive information. So before the hacker knows what the data you have, you can use Microsoft Purview and understand the data, and you will be able to classify the data. If the data is sensitive, critical, or highly critical, then you can harden the security of your infrastructure. Right. So now you understood how critical the data is. Let us understand how Microsoft Purview works. So we have the source itself. There can be multiple sources from where the data will be discovered. The sources can be Azure Cloud. So it can be Azure Cloud, it can be on-prem, and it can be multi-cloud like AWS or Google. It can be in the software as a service provider like Office 365 or G Suite or any other software as a service provider. And on all these infrastructure, like we have some kind of data, right? So this is the first thing. And the second thing will be the data itself. On all these resources or infrastructure where the data is residing, there can be multiple data types. It can be of user data. It can be the database data. It can be HR data, marketing data, manufacturing. If it is a pharmaceutical company, then you have chemical composition and pharma related data. If it is banking sector, then you have all your financial data, right? If it is a insurance, then all the customer information about the insurance, their illness, like this. And if it is hospital, then you know what kind of data we are dealing with. So basically, these are the data types which is residing in your environment. And we need to discover the data. So what we'll do is, what Microsoft Purview will do is, it will discover the data. It will discover the data basically using the connectors. So there are default connectors which are used by Microsoft Purview to discover the data, and it will collect the metadata information. Using the connector, it will discover the data and it will collect all the metadata information. So metadata is nothing but the information about the data itself. Basically, we don't copy any data from the source. It is just collecting the metadata itself to understand what kind of data we have in your infrastructure. And once the metadata is collected, then we map the data. Mapping the data is understanding the data end to end. From where exactly the data is residing. If it is there in the Azure, then where exactly it is residing. It is there in the storage account, it is there in the SQL, or it is there in the Cosmos DB. So all the information you have in your metadata. And that is why if it is giving you the map of the data, which is end-to-end flow of the data, then it has to tell what is the source of the data, right? The source can be storage account, SQL Server, Cosmos DB, or even the virtual machine. So basically, Microsoft Purview will provide end-to-end information about the data. So once you have end-to-end map of your data, then you will be able to query the data, or you will be able to search the data, right? So this is how Microsoft Purview will be able to discover the data and track the data from different sources. So let us go back to the notes again. Microsoft 365 features as the core component of Microsoft Purview. Microsoft 365 has multiple services like Teams, OneDrive, Exchange, and even the Office products as well. Microsoft Purview help your organization by protecting sensitive data across clouds, applications, and devices. We will be able to identify data risks and manage regulatory compliance requirements. We can get started with regulatory compliance as well using the Microsoft Purview. Microsoft Purview provides unified view for the entire data estates that includes data classification and end-to-end lineage, and we'll be able to identify the sensitive data and classify the data when we discover the data from different sources. We can create a secure environment for the data consumers to find valuable data once the data has been discovered. Using the Microsoft Purview, we can generate insights about how our data is stored and where exactly is stored and how it is being used. And also we can manage access to the data in our estate securely and at scale. So this was an overview about Microsoft Purview. Thank you for watching the video. If you like the content, please subscribe and share the video. Thank you and take care.